We're checking out an all-new the RCWR show for this Monday night of February 10th, 2020. What is going on, guys? Lee Sanders here. Not quite out of the doghouse, Lee Sanders. Tell you a little bit why in just a hot second. But yeah, coming at you for Monday night. We're just a couple of minutes removed from an all-new WWE Raw. We're definitely going to be talking about just some key points. Remember how we like to do it on this show, but we'll talk about some key highlights from tonight's Monday Night Raw. Also give you my overall thoughts on the return of the XFL, as they had not one, not two, not three, but 4 games that went down over the weekend. We're going to be experiencing the XFL for the next 10 weeks. 10 weeks. So if you guys wanted some more football action, you got it now. I know there were probably a lot of you guys that were a bit on the fence. Some of you, I wouldn't blame you, especially if you were around the first go round of the XFL. If you had decided you were going to tune out, totally understand that, but got the honest takeaway of opening weekend's XFL games, so make sure you stick around for that. We also got some more wrestling little tidbits that we'll be able to get into. Now, just a quick heads up, let's sidebar real quick before we dive into everything. This is going to be a short show, and reason being is I actually was supposed to go to work earlier today, and I woke up just hacking, raspy voice. It was much worse than what you're hearing right now, and a lot of what I do at work, I interact with so many people, and I rely heavily on my voice, right? So add that on top of doing voiceover stuff and all that. My voice is the most precious, valuable thing that I have that I so desperately need. So I basically was in the covers all day, sweating it out, drinking my orange juice, had some NyQuil and all that going on. And I actually was supposed to record some Patreon content with Tammy. I put the tweets out about it earlier today. And Tams was like, you know what? Why don't you just commit to doing just the show after Raw? And let's do the Patreon stuff tomorrow when we know you'll be a bit more out of the woodwork. So I say, you know what? That's actually a really good idea, because I was going to record 2 Patreon things back to back and release them over the course of the next couple of days and everything. So the missus was like, you know what? One thing you should also do with regards to the show tonight, keep it short, be right to the point, do about maybe 75 minutes, maybe 80 minutes at most. But that's it. I said, oh, shoot, that's not going to be a problem whatsoever. So whatever we are not able to get into tonight, there's always the Wednesday show. And you guys know I try to show you a little bit more love on the Wednesday shows, as I try to, make those be a little bit longer since we come on earlier and everything. But for now, kick on back, relax, and enjoy. To those of you that check out the show live, I do appreciate that as always. But I especially love the folks that go out of their way to check out the show on demand and on the downloads. That's where we really get the most love the most. So I do appreciate that as always from you guys. All right, so look, tonight's WWE Raw, we got the polls that's out right now asking you guys, what did you make of tonight's WWE Raw? And I've got a total of 3 polls that's up right now. I've got 2 different polls that's up on Twitter, and I've got the usual poll that's in our communities tab over on YouTube. So click on that. So right now I am seeing that with regards to polling our own listeners, our own followers on Twitter, 67% gave tonight's Monday Night Raw a thumbs down. Meanwhile, 33% gave it a thumbs up. Meanwhile, on WWE's own official Twitter account, 38% gave Monday Night Raw a thumbs down. Meanwhile, 62% gave the show a thumbs up. I won't do the YouTube poll just yet, since that was put up just a couple of minutes ago. But if you want to cast your vote, don't double dip, right? And I want to make sure, I shouldn't have to say this, but I kind of remember there was another poll we did, and I had heard somebody say, I didn't check it out, I just wanted to cast a vote. Only if you had checked out the show tonight should you vote. If you did not vote, if you did not see the show yet, do not vote. The polling will stay open on Twitter for 2 days, whereas the YouTube poll, that
never expires. But YouTube, I just put up, so I'll poke my head into that one a little bit later on. So a very drastic change there in the results, is it not? When you look at when we polled our own respected followers, majority saying thumbs down for tonight's Raw. However, on WWE's official Twitter account, 63% are giving it a thumbs up. So pretty interesting, but pick your poll. You don't have to spam yourself all out. Just pick a poll, vote. I'll swing on back to that one more time. Look, tonight with regards to Raw, I would say much like SmackDown. Your man did finally check out SmackDown after missing about at least a month, maybe almost a month and a half of SmackDown action. And very similar to what I put out there about SmackDown on Twitter last week is how I felt about tonight's Raw, which was another case where we were just really going through the motions and everything. And it just really feels more like we're just bridging that gap along to the Saudi Arabia show and everything. And, honestly, I wish it wasn't the case where WWE had to scrounge around and try to figure out what they're going to put together for this Saudi show. I wish we could just be focused on WrestleMania, really selling the stories and everything, being invested in those, and just really go from there. But we've got this little detour that we're doing. First, let me go in with the positives that came tonight before I dive into some of the negatives and offer ways of improvement and everything, right? First off, let me give mad shout out. And, look, again, when it comes to this show, I don't like doing the full-blown recaps. There's enough of those guys that do that as it is. I will focus on key points, and I'll expand my thought upon that. But there's really no need for me to, be coming on here and, packed house tonight. It's about 45,000 in attendance, and boy, the food out there looked pretty damn good. I don't need to go into all of that. Weather was only 45 degrees, real chill feel. I don't need to go into all that. Props to the Matt Hardy, Randy Orton segment. That segment I enjoyed tremendously. Of course, we saw the vicious attack that Randy Orton did on Edge from a couple of weeks ago. The burning $1 million question, why, right? And the way that those two guys, more so Edge, the fact that they had the fans in the palm of their hand when they did those spots there with Edge, that is what classic moments is all about. I mean, that was just essentially a great textbook 101 bookmark right there, what they did. And to the point, if you guys recall, I was on this show a couple of weeks ago and I told you how it reminded me so much about the unsanctioned match that eventually went down between Triple H and HBK Shawn Michaels, right? SummerSlam 2002, right? Oh, one of my all-time favorites from the Shawn Michael archives. One of my absolute favorites from him. So you got the burning question of why did Randy Orton do what he did? And we saw how white hot that crowd was last week when Randy Orton was going to try to maybe give an explanation, so we think, but it never did go down. And everything culminates to this week trying to see, okay, so just how far along are we going to see here with Randy Orton giving his rebuttal for why things panned out the way it did? Why did he attack Matt Hardy and everything? Why did he attack Edge and everything? But Matt Hardy would come out tonight. That was a great exchange of words that the two of them had, and felt very nostalgia there. I got to admit to you guys, it felt very nostalgic seeing both of those guys in there. And, Matt Hardy, who has pretty much, him and Rebby Sky, has let it be no secret that Matt is not happy with what's going on in his current state with the WWE, his current position. He's not liking that whatsoever. And as far as what the future will hold for Matt Hardy, your guess is as good as mine, right? I just, if you ask me what do I want most from Matt Hardy, my answer may seem a little bit cliche. It may seem a bit very generic, too safe of words to use for some of you guys, but it's really from the heart, which is, I just want Matt Hardy, if he still wants to contribute to the business, he wants to continue to contribute to the business, I just want for him to be at a place where he really feels as though he's being properly utilized, his ideas, his creative input, everything. He really is able to voice his opinions. And it is one of those deals where, of course, not everything he puts out there is going to be money, but at least there is that outlet for him to get his candid thoughts across. And there is some type of a working relationship, right? Great meeting of the minds, good compromise. Okay, let's try that, but let's tweak that. I just want him to be happy when it's all said and done. That's honestly, and I sincerely mean that. As somebody that has followed his career and his brother's just career for many years now, and I had the opportunity to interview Matt when, sadly, I didn't get a chance to interview Matt when he was doing the whole Woken gimmick. I didn't get a chance to do that. By the time I was able to sit down and interview Matt, he was doing the whole big money Matt Hardy. He was in that type of realm. But even at that, creatively wise, what he was doing, because at that point he was even working with ROH and all that. You guys would agree, if you remember that far back, he was doing some phenomenal shit and everything. So honestly, for me, I just want him to be in a place where he's being properly utilized, right? But with regards to tonight, it made perfect sense for Matt Hardy to be out there in the face of Randy Orton asking, hey, dude, what the hell? Wow, why did you do that to Edge? Yeah, man, me and Edge, we got a lot of history, and kudos for Matt Hardy for the way, I would like to believe a veteran wrestler like Matt Hardy, all you got to do is just essentially give him the bullet points, and he can go out there and he can do what he needs to do. He can sell that without any problems. You know what I'm saying? So for me, when it comes to Matt Hardy, I love the fact that, and go back and watch that segment again. Well, when Matt Hardy was talking to Randy Orton and he was going over the Edge history, right? I like how he glanced over. He mentioned it, but he didn't mention it. He did touch upon, without mentioning, the whole Lita fiasco thing. And I love how eloquent he was and the right choosing of his words and everything. That was classic. That was classy on his part and everything. But, if you've been a longtime WWE fan, you know exactly what he's talking about. So I love how all of that was set up, the whole revisionist history, the great feuds, right? That he's had with Edge and Christian, making TLC, right? All of that. I loved all of that he said. And no matter what all had went down with Edge, how eventually everything just became water under the bridge between he and Edge. And he wants to know, why would you do that to him after everything that man has been through, almost 10 years away from the ring, something that he loved to do. Why? And just when it seemed like Randy Orton was going to give that answer, seeing Randy Orton attack Matt Hardy, Matt kind of figuring it was coming, fighting him off for a little bit. Seemed like Matt was getting the upper hand on the offense. Orton coming right back, eventually hitting him with the RKO and everything. All of that was nice. Now, if a situation is going to occur where Randy Orton and Matt Hardy will maybe be locking it up next week, right? Or you could say to me, hey, these two might be doing something in Saudi Arabia. I would be okay with that. But look, at this point, if you are going to have Matt Hardy and Randy Orton feud against each other for the next 2 weeks, give or take, I'm actually okay with that. And one of the main reasons why I am okay with that is because the longer that you can have Randy Orton and Edge be separated, the better, right? We're what, like 50 something days away from WrestleMania, right? So essentially that is about, well, we know 2 months. That pretty much gives you 60 days, right? So we're about a month and 3 weeks away, something to that effect. So if you want to do the next 2 weeks, you can do that. And I'm going to make a bold prediction. I'm going to say that after the next 2 Monday Night Raws, so basically that'll be the 17th and the 24th, I would say look for during the week of the 24th. And if not during the week of the 24th, Then the week of March 2nd, look for WWE to promote. And I'm telling you, when I said what I said about, man, shades of HBK and Triple H from a couple of weeks ago, and how I reiterated it again, remember how eventually everything got set up there, right? I wouldn't be surprised if not the week of February 24th or the week of March 2nd, WWE Creative pulls a page out of that historic chapter from that feud, and they go, hey folks, joining us on Raw via satellite next week, it's going to be Edge. This is going to be Edge's first time, responding to the vicious attacks that Randy Orton had did on him some weeks ago. We're going to find out what's going on with Edge, his health status. Have we seen maybe the last of him getting in the ring, all of that. I wouldn't be surprised if we get something like that laid out. And I'm going to go a step further. I don't think this needs to be any old type of match. I just don't think that. I think if you are really going to heighten this program even more between Edge and Randy Orton, I think one of the things that you need to do, storyline wise, it makes a lot of sense here. Follow with me, indulge me here. It makes a lot of sense just how WWE was very cautious with Daniel Bryan. And remember how notorious Daniel Bryan was in the interviews over the years and how he was trying to get cleared, but WWE, they would not give him the green light. He was getting second, third opinions, all of those things. And hey, these guys, they say I'm good to go. What's going on? And WWE's going, no, sorry, too risque. We're not touching it. No, sorry. And just when you thought maybe Daniel Bryan was going to have to resort to, okay, well, if WWE is not going to clear me, maybe I'm going to have to go wrestle for another promotion, right? He accepted his fate, but then after a couple of years and, going out there and getting the opinions of other medical personnel, going on the spiritual tip and trying all types of experiments to heal himself and everything, heal his body and everything. It's looking as though, okay, he's cleared by these guys, but WWE's not trying to give their seal of approval. Okay, well, maybe I'll go wrestle for another promotion or whatever, right? And how they had handled that, you see what's going on with Paige and everything like that. And then, you also got to go back to the circumstances surrounding Shawn Michaels in storyline, going back into the ring there with Triple H and how they set it up to be an unsanctioned match. Basically, hey, WWE is not going to be held reliable for whatever happens in this match. So I need to see something come about where Edge basically says the doctors, they are advising him that as far as getting back into the ring, they just, no. The damage that was done to his neck a couple of weeks ago, and however they can dress it up, luckily it was just a hairline fracture or something like that. I just got to rest for a couple of more weeks, right? It's going to take a minute to, fully recover from that. I'd like to see something along those lines be brought up in how he wants to try to get a hold of Randy Orton one-on-one. But basically, long story short, somehow it's going to have to be an unsanctioned match where WWE says, look, if you're willing to risk your health that bad to get your hands on Randy Orton, okay, so be it. But we're going to make it an unsanctioned match, and we cannot be held liable for anything that Randy Orton does to you in that match. It is completely out of our hands, right? You cannot, no matter what, you cannot come around and you can't try to sue us because we did try to warn you and everything. You okay with that? Leads to a big epic contract signing or whatever. I like to see something like that pan out with those two guys. Hopefully that is the direction that we're going to be going in. Some other good stuff that I enjoyed about tonight's WWE Raw. I enjoyed the Becky Lynch Asuka match for the Women's Championship. That actually was a pretty good match. I enjoyed that one. Becky and Asuka tearing it up once again. They actually got a couple of segments to their credit. My God, I think adding in the commercials, I want to say those girls had maybe 3 segments Not four. It doesn't feel like they have 4 segments, but definitely at least 3 segments there. A lot of story time was given into that one. Big ups right there. Becky Lynch coming out with the retain, but post matches where things had got really interesting. We had saw Kari Zane. She entered, tried to help out Asuka. Becky Lynch pretty much squashed her, no problem whatsoever. But Shayna Baszler attacks Becky Lynch from behind. And when you first see all of this, it's just a blur. You're going, who is that? Who is that that's attacking Becky? And then when the camera finally pulls back a bit and you see the person rise up to their feet, oh, snap, Shayna Baszler. Like, okay, this is cool. And you see Shayna Baszler taking out her mouth guard piece. And then while Becky Lynch is still on all fours, going in for the back of Becky's neck and essentially biting off a piece of her skin, and just the visual there, the bloodiness and everything. I love that. That was a nice touch that they did. It had shades. One of the first things that I was reminded of, and you can actually see this, I was among the first that put it out on Twitter. I said, my God, this reminds me of the whole fucking Mike Tyson, freaking Evander Holyfield. Like, this reminds me of the freaking ear incident. Like, shit, except it's Shayna Baszler like a rabbit Wolverine going in for the freaking back of necky or whatever, right? My neck, my back, and my right and crack, right? It's like, damn. So great visual that we saw. Shayna feeling pretty good about herself, disappears. Medical personnel grabbing a hold of Becky there. Kudos to Becky for the way she had sold that too. At this point, I actually was finalizing wedding invitations. I was finalizing the designs and showed it to the missus, and she was like, oh yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, that looks really great. Okay, what's on the back of the card? I show her what's on the back. Oh, okay, well, instead of that, let's add this. So I was finalizing those, and now I'm just waiting in the mail to receive those. I'm not going to get them until next week. I'm a little bit bummed out because I like them a little bit sooner. They charge an arm and a leg for stuff like that. I'm just now realizing that. I mean, my God, if you want it by, in 3 days, so essentially before Valentine's Day or right at Valentine's Day, shipping $30. Like, no, don't want that. And then you got the lowest one, which was $8.99, and then there was something that was $11.99, where basically you get it in 8 business days. I'm going, okay, that's a little more reasonable, but who the hell wants to spend $30 just to have paper essentially mailed to you? I don't, you guys got to forgive me, but I was dumbfounded when I added all of that up, because what started it off as, oh, $20, cool. It's almost kind of like when you're doing Little Caesars or Pizza Hut, and you know how it is when you push in for one order. Okay, I just want this. Hey, would you like to add a 2-liter bottle of, yeah, I am kind of parched. Yeah, sure, what the hell. Hey, don't forget our breadsticks. Oh, yeah, I do like those. Those are pretty good. Yeah, okay, sure. Hey, would you like a chocolate, fuck you cake? Yeah, yeah, sure, whatever. And the next thing you know, it starts off as, I'm just going to spend $20. You end up spending $48 fucking dollars. It's freaking crazy, man. It's freaking crazy. But yeah, that's what it reminded me of, going back to that whole Sasha spot there. Yeah, I was reminded of the Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, infamous ear bite. And for you younger folks that's out there, you don't know nothing about Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield and everything, just to really set this up for you guys. Rewind it back, and you can probably still see this in its entirety on YouTube or Daily Motion, but you got to rewind this back to 1997. All right. 1997. I remember watching this on pay-per-view with my friends. I was over their house, and, we got the snacks and everything like always. And we were really looking forward to this fight. Now, we were very divided. Half of us was Tyson, and the other half was Evander. I was on the side of, Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's going to go out there, and he is going to whoop that ass, right? And so we are just really, really looking forward to this fight, right? And, it starts off it starts off pretty good. And if I remember it right, this was actually Evander Holyfield taking on Mike Tyson 2. It goes back to January 28th of 1997. All right. So great match. And at that point, Evander Holyfield's record was 33 wins, 3 losses, right? You go to Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson had 45 wins, 2 losses. All right. Now you look at the knockout record. Evander Holyfield was pushing 24 knockouts. Mike Tyson was pushing 39 knockouts. All right. And the fight, it took place at the MGM Grand Arena out in Las Vegas and everything. So, you go to the matches and everything. The opening match, Holyfield was dominating Tyson. There's no doubt about that. Anybody that is truly unbiased when it comes to their boxing, they would agree, yeah, offensively, you're just going off of the scorecard, Holyfield is owning Mike Tyson, right? And he won decisively the first 3 rounds when it was all said and done. There's no doubt about that, right? Now, at about 2:19, somewhere around the 2-minute mark of the first round, you get an overhand right from Holyfield that stuns Tyson. But he fought it off, gets right back up and everything, right? 32 seconds into the second round, Holyfield ducked the right from Tyson. And in the process of that, he unintentionally headbutted Tyson. Now, that obviously had made Tyson, pretty pissed off, because leading up to that point, there was a couple of plays that had went down from Holyfield that had Mike Tyson go, dude, what the fuck? And he's even gesturing over to the referee, yo, your job, get on your job here. What the fuck, man? What the fuck? Do your job, right? And, you see the replays as far as who the referee was. It was Mills Lane, right? Let's get it on. It was Mills Lane, right? So you see, to Mills Lane's credit, he's like, yeah, look, I hear you, Mike, but the headbutts, it's unintentional. Like, Holyfield, he can't help it, man. It's unintentional. It's unintentional. Like, chill, just keep it going. I'm watching it, but keep fighting. Let's go, right? So, you're watching this. You could kind of look at it and you could say, this feels a bit one-sided here. This kind of feels dirty, what's going on here, right? And I definitely was on the side with everybody on Tyson. That's like, we want a good, clean, fair fight. That's what we want in the end, right? But we are looking at this and going, this feels like some serious fuckery that's going on. Not really sure about this, right? So as the third round was about to begin, you got Mike Tyson. He comes from out of his corner without his mouthpiece, right? And Lane orders Tyson, yo, sit back down in your corner, go back to your corner and make sure you go put your mouthpiece in and everything. So Tyson does put his mouthpiece back in. He goes in there, third round, right? 40 seconds going into this. Actually, right before that, Tyson goes into this fury offense. I mean, he is pissed. I mean, he is just going in there, punches. I mean, he's just doing it, right? With about 40 seconds left, this much I do remember, with about 40 seconds left into the third round, Holyfield once again, the head, once again with the head and a little bit with the shoulder or whatever, right? And so this time, Tyson, he just couldn't help himself. He just chomped the fuck out of Holyfield's ear. And you just see Holyfield, he's jumping. It was almost kind of like somebody put a needle up his butt or whatever. And he's just jumping. And you're going, what the hell? What did he miss? What did he miss? What the hell? Right? And then, he's touching the side of his face, right? You're, side of his ear. You're going, what's going on? And then you realize, did Tyson just think he just did? Right? Like, before we could even see what went down, one of my friends goes, oh, he bit the dude's ear. I'm like, you sure? Yeah, that's why he's acting like that. He bit his ear. It's like, okay, he bit his ear, whatever. Fight's going to continue. It's like, I don't know, dog. Nah, fight didn't continue. I mean, Tyson took a big old chunk of that freaking ear. A big old chunk, spat it out. And you can see it on the ring floor clear as day. Visually, like, you want to see something really cool and badass, and you're a younger fan, you never saw the 1997 part 2 fight between those guys, it's worth going out of your way and checking out. But yeah, man, seeing Shayna Baszler there in that spot tonight, I had fun. As you just heard there, I just had a nice trip down memory lane checking that out. It was just, and that, I think, was officially the beginning of the end for Mike Tyson. That incident alone was really, I tell you, I remember it made a lot of promoters and everybody just kind of back off and everything, right? But yeah, that was a good spot that they did. Now, EMTs, they got Becky. They're taking her to the back. They're putting her on an ambulance, and Becky decides, nah, you know what? I'm okay. The man's going to drive herself to the hospital, right? Okay, so, all right, Becky, guess you're done for the night. We see her later on driving back. She got herself stitched up or whatever. She's spoiling for a fight, looking for Shayna Baszler, but I guess Baszler has already left the arena for the night, right? So if there was ever a reason to now, I'm curious what's going to be going down on NXT this week. Now you have that, well, right? Because now you're kind of left with the impression, damn, well, if Charlotte could pop up on NXT, but they made sure to announce her, maybe this go round, Becky Lynch could do a surprise, and she does. At this point, I think it's all fair to make sure you have Becky Lynch do a surprise cameo on this week's NXT looking for Shayna Baszler. You'd be a fool to not do that. You sincerely would. But that was nice how they had played all of that out. So think about that. So the way WrestleMania is stacking up right now, you've got Charlotte taking on Rhea Ripley for the NXT Championship. Meanwhile, you've got Shayna Baszler. Looks like she's going to be challenging Becky Lynch for her Raw Women's Championship. So it's really nice to see two marquee NXT talents fighting two of the very best that's on the women's roster right now in the WWE. This is a dramatic departure from some of the stuff that we were kind of hearing initially a couple of weeks back, which kind of made most of us go, well, this is kind of stale. We need something kind of different. We need something fresher. We need something that's a little bit more unique. Some of us were even saying right down to the point, why don't we show a little bit more love to the NXT girls? And so essentially, that's what we're getting now. Those are going to be two really good matchups. I don't think it's going to be disappointing whatsoever. We did hear from our girl Ruby Riott as far as why did she attack Liv Morgan last week. A cryptic message. And surprisingly, we did not see Liv Morgan at all this week. I thought that was kind of interesting, right? But you want to sell what Ruby Riott did, okay, I'm down with that. If that's the main agenda for not having Liv Morgan there tonight, I'm okay with that. But Ruby Riott, very cryptic message that she put out there, and so cryptic, I had a bit of a hard time kind of making sense out of what she said about Ruby Riott, about what she said of Liv Morgan. And to even recite some of what she had said here, I actually had to take some notes here. Let me see if I can actually jump to the segment in question here. Bear with me a moment here, and I should be able to pull it up, because I think by the time that had pulled up, it feels like that popped up right around maybe the second hour. Maybe it was the third hour. No, it felt more like the second hour. Let me see here. I'm almost there, so bear with me a second here, guys. And I think it happened right around... Hang on. Backstage segment. Hopefully I got it in there. If I don't have it in it, I'm just going to go off of memory here. And it doesn't look like I have it in here. Which, there we go. There we go. Okay, so Ruby Riott says she knows the real Liv, and that Liv is a puppy dog. She can take the pink out. She can change her clothes. She can try to sell the world this fake image, this mirage that she has on display right now. but Ruby knows her and knows her very well. And as far as Ruby Riott is concerned, Liv will always be a follower. And as a result, she had to babysit. Ruby had to babysit Liv Morgan. And what she did to Liv Morgan last week was putting her back in her place to show her who she always will be. She strikes when Ruby says so. So apparently, Ruby Riott really, this almost kind of plays up to what I was talking about off and on the past couple of weeks, which was, you know, the most simplistic storyline that you can go with is Liv Morgan look at this opportunity to break free from the Riott Squad and everything. You could always, to her credit, say that she always felt when she was in the Riott Squad, that was more so about getting Ruby Riott over. It was all about her agenda, and it wasn't a team effort agenda. And that probably one of the coolest blessings in disguise was that Ruby Riott got injured. And so now this put Liv Morgan in a position where she could do as she pleases and everything. So that was something I was kind of toying around with off and on for the past couple of weeks. But I remember I had came across a little bit of a hiccup as far as how clear cut can you make it there. And I remember when we were talking about this last week, as far as Ruby Riott, you know, why did she do what she did and everything. I believe I alluded to that a little bit, but I wasn't quite sure the direction that WWE was going to be going, because it was kind of an interesting position that they were in. But this is the direction that they decided they wanted to go in, and I'm actually okay with that. I'm actually okay with that direction that they're going in here. One other positive for this week, Rhea Ripley making a little appearance, had a squash match against Sarah Logan. Y'all know how I feel about Sarah Logan, so I'm not going to reiterate that once again, but is it just me, or does it seem like every time we see Sarah Logan, her hair color keeps changing? I don't know what's going on with that, but yeah, I got nothing else to say about Sarah Logan, so don't be looking for me, don't be probing me. I'm not saying anything more about Sarah Logan there. I'm done with that one, but I thought that was kind of hilarious as Rhea Ripley was backstage being interviewed, and Sarah Logan comes to the scene talking a hot game. Rhea says to her, "And who are you?" and walks off, right? That was pretty funny. I did enjoy that. But, you know, those were some of the bright spots there for Raw. The bad, I got to talk about the bad, right? But it's not a bitch fest. It's, for me, negatives and where things needs to be improved, basically, right? Okay. Rico Suave, a.k.a. Ricochet. I'm calling him Ricochet. I know it's Ricochet. I'm calling him Ricochet this week. I didn't particularly care for the promo this week. I haven't particularly cared for the promos he's been putting out there the past couple of weeks. Now, some of you, just to play devil's advocate, may say to me, well, Lee, not for nothing, but you've always been an advocate for, hey, you know, these guys, they need more mic time. These guys need to hone their craft. How are they supposed to get better if they aren't continuing to be given opportunities to speak and know what they need to improve upon, right? And I say to you, yeah, that's very true. But at the same time, just because you need to work on, let's just say, for example, your promos, it doesn't mean that, like, for example, if I know that your talking point isn't really your strongest selling point, the last thing I'm going to do is have you go out there and cut a 5-minute promo. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to utilize you at your core strengths if I have to have you talk. And I'm going to make sure that you're able to make your point. Whoever you're feuding against, when, where, the 5 W's as I like to refer to them. You long-time listeners know about the 5 W's. I'm going to make sure that you go out there and I have you as polished as possible in about 3 minutes or less for you to make your points, and we move on. Anything past 3 minutes and you're still very green behind the ears when it comes to those promos, you are going to be sounding redundant. You're going to be looking into the wind for a direction on, right? So I would rather we really try to fine tune whatever it is we need you to go out there and say. And see, and this wasn't a case where Ricochet was in the middle of a ring. This was backstage. And backstage, it was not going over. There's no, I said it on the show, I want to say, if not last week, the week before, I'll say it again. Ricochet needs to hook up with The Miz, John Morrison's people, Edge's people, even Dolph Ziggler. He needs to hook up with those guys, and he needs to find out who their acting coaches were and all that. He needs some contacts ASAP. If Ricochet is sincerely going to be put into this position where he is, right, the next big thing that's going to be happening for the company in the next couple of years, you got to take care of that. You got to take care of that because, yeah, the potential in the ring, that's all there for the young man. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. But having him go out there and doing those long-winded promos, nah, man, you're hanging him out to dry as far as I'm concerned. So less is actually better. Less is actually better. You got to do it that way. Ricochet taking on Bobby Lashley. Good matchup. Here's a question, though. Did we really need to have Ricochet go over Bobby Lashley? Did we really need to, we couldn't have that end on a disqualification in favor of Ricochet. We couldn't, we had to sacrifice the almighty Bobby Lashley. That kind of rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. So now, and I wouldn't blame fans if they kind of felt like this. Okay, so if a guy like Ricochet can beat Bobby Lashley, then does that mean a guy like a Heath Slater or a guy such as No Way Jose, does that mean that pretty much have the same height, build, and everything as a Ricochet? Does this now mean that, right? So that's kind of another direction that you got to look at there, and I'm not exactly sure I like that. I think it really would have been a nice, cool little spot if Lana would have continued to interfere in that match tonight on behalf of Lashley, and if anything, at some point you had Rusev out there to help balance the odds, take advantage of a distracted referee with Lana, right? Getting the one up on Lashley. And then essentially you could say Ricochet won with help from, right? I wish we could have gone in that direction instead. That would have been a bit smarter, but they didn't go in that direction either. So a little bit disappointed with how they had handled that, particularly on the Bobby Lashley side of things, but they can do better. One other good note I do want to talk about. I did enjoy the VIP lounge with MVP and Drew McIntyre. McIntyre is continuing to turn on the charm, continuing to entertain the crowd. Crowd reactions have been very good to him. Felt very nostalgic walking down memory lane again with the MVP VIP lounge. I miss those. And remember, MVP, he was on social media last week because people were, oh, great to see you back. Who are you going to be fighting next? Blah, blah, blah. And he pretty much has said, hey, my in-ring career, it's done. It's done. I wanted to do that because my kid, they never saw me wrestle in the WWE. They never saw me have a match against Rey Mysterio. So it was nice to be able to go in there, have one more match, right? So if that's how MVP is going to be utilized from here on out, doing his VIP lounge here and there, and I wouldn't be surprised if also from just a creative standpoint, because there was that period of time where MVP was helping out backstage and everything. If maybe he's going to be tapped into as a producer or an agent, I say good for him. Couldn't happen to a cooler guy, honestly. So, see how that plays out. But, overall, Raw tonight, I'm just going through the motions. I don't think there's really anything else that I'm missing. So, unless there's something dire you guys want me to really talk about, I'm not really going to go there, honestly, because I don't think there's really anything else to really highlight there. But, overall, other than some of those points I have brought up, Raw, again, was a so-so episode. To the polling we go now. let's see what you guys had said in a new update here on Twitter. All right, so with you, our listeners and followers on Twitter, you guys had said for tonight's Raw, 62% giving it a thumbs down, 38% are giving it a thumbs up. Meanwhile, Twitter's official account here, 32% gave Raw a thumbs down, 68% gave it a thumbs up. And let's go to YouTube here, see what you guys said in YouTube on the communities tab. Remember, you can cast your vote on one of those outlets. You don't need to spam out, just pick one. And while I got that loading up, hey, I do want to take this time out to thank those of you that had cast your votes exclusively on Twitter, helping me figure out which book I should read next now that I had wrapped up Glenn Jacobs' Mayor Kane book. And it was a close one. As at many times it was a tie between Soul Man Rocky Johnson and AJ Lee. And I had said to you guys, AJ Lee, I probably read about the first 20 pages of the book. And for whatever respected reasons, I never got back into it again. Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes I'll start reading a book and my schedule will get so chaotic. And next thing you know, I'll forget to pick it back up. So that's why AJ Lee's book was on the list. But AJ Lee and Rocky Johnson, it was neck to neck. So many times there was a tie. Once in a blue moon, you would see Rocky Johnson was on top. And then AJ Lee would be on top. And the final end result, Soul Man Rocky Johnson won, but not by much. It kind of appears to me that Rocky Johnson maybe won by about 2, possibly 3 votes. I don't think it was by 1 vote. I think Rocky won by about 2 to 3 votes at most. So it was a nail biter, because I'm just looking at it going, man, how is this going to pan out? So I do appreciate you guys that have voted. So the next book I'll be reading and reviewing is Soul Man Rocky Johnson. And you know what? In fairness, once I'm done with that, because I'm going to be juggling that book, and I've got an advanced copy of Jim Ross's Under the Black Hat. I'm actually going to start reading that effective tomorrow. And so I'll be juggling both of those. Once I have those both knocked out of the way, I will gladly read AJ Lee's book next for you guys that were really hoping that would be the winner. Still early on YouTube, but I'm seeing that 29% of you gave Raw for this week a thumbs down. Meanwhile, 71% of you gave it a thumbs up. So a bit closer to the Twitter one under WWE's account. So I think that's pretty interesting. Those two seem to be a little bit more where the pulse is right now, right? So I find it interesting, not to discredit, people that's following on Twitter and everything, our listeners and all that, the RCWR Nation, but I just find that pretty interesting. That's how you guys voted there. So thank you all that voted, and continue to vote. You guys are more than welcome to continue to vote. Hey, let's get into a couple of shout outs, and then I got some more headlines we can get into. We're doing pretty good on Showtime right now. I'm feeling pretty good too. Remember, we're going to go about 75 minutes, about maybe 80 minutes at most. So basically that would take us to about, well, I know we came on at 11:05, right? So midnight, 12:06, that would give us about an hour. So let's see what we can do by about 12:15. I think 12:15, if we could be done right before then, great. Maybe a little before then or right at that mark. I don't have a problem going that long, all right? But I am feeling a lot better, but I'm going to listen to the little lady who essentially had said, look, if you don't wrap up the show when you're supposed to, I will come in here. They'll understand, because you're not really feeling that good, and I will drag you out of here. It's like, it ain't gonna come to that. Don't worry. I will be done in time. All right, let's get into a couple of shout outs here, and then we'll get into some more headlines. First off, I do want to take this time out, and I want to thank some of our sponsors for tonight's edition of the RCWR show, as we are brought to you in part by the good folks over at Leafy Legal Services. If you're a real estate investor or an entrepreneur, they can help strategically grow your business with great success and wealth. Check them out, leafyassets.com. That's leafyassets.com. The RCWR show with Lee Sanders is also brought to you in part by watchshopus.com. watchshopus.com. Let me ask you guys something. Have you gotten the Valentine's Day gifts out of the way. If you have not, you still got a little bit of time, especially if you're living out here in the U.S. You got time. Watch shoplus.com. Have great gifts for him and for her. More than just watches. I mean, I'm talking necklaces. I'm talking nice, fine style designing clothes, gift bags, all kinds of really cool stuff that you could find over there on that site. Check them out. WatchShopUs.com. Once again, WatchShopUs.com. You still got enough time to put in those orders, and you will definitely be good to go. And one thing that I do want to bring to you all's attention, which I think is a little bit weird about WatchShopUs.com, and shout out to the people there at WatchShopUs.com. When you try to go to their website, it looks like maybe they have forgot to pay their HostGator bill. That's how it kind of looks. So I'm not really sure what is going on with that. Your guess is as good as mine. But it looks like when you go over to their website, it says that this account has been suspended. Contact your hosting provider for more information. Now, let me tell you something. The only time you will see a message like that is if one forgot to pay the bill for the HostGator or the GoDaddy, depending on who your host provider is. So hopefully they will be back up in a day or so. But the last little bit of exchange I had with them was actually last week, and they had thanked me for the services that we were providing and promoting them. They did mention how they had a decent amount of traffic that was coming their way from us. So I think that's kind of weird. Hopefully, they'll get that taken care of ASAP. But, we've essentially done our part. We've promoted them, but it is what it is. But, yeah. Also, want to take this time out to thank another cool sponsor, somebody that's been with us for a good minute now. Somebody that definitely does not have an account suspended in any type of way. The good folks behind the movie President Evil. Check that out if you love good dark comedy, politics mixed in there and everything. Check it out. 3 young girls are stalked by a deranged serial killer that's dressed as the president of the United States. Check it out on Amazon. And have no fear, all of the links, it's included in the episode description of this very episode. I got some Patreon shout outs, but we'll get into that a little bit later on during the show. Yeah, for now, we got a couple of more headlines that we can dive into. I'm keeping it real short and tight for at least this week. We can go a little bit longer on next Monday's show for sure. Of course, we got this Wednesday show. So look, I can't stress it enough. If you're like me, let's have some real talk for a second. If you're like me and you have had a estranged relationship with your parents, or just any member of your family that at one point you were really close to, and for whatever respected reasons, fallout, whatever, and you haven't spoken to them in years. Let me tell you something, man. As if seeing all of these great big personalities that have passed away, a majority of them passing way before their time. Lane Staley, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Jeff Buckley, we'd be here all night going through the names. I was really deeply touched by the memorial service or, funeral services from over the weekend. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson speaking at the podium, offering candid thoughts about his dad. And, there were a lot of us that really wasn't sure. And I didn't jump out there like that. I didn't try to speculate it. I let it be no secret. Hey, I got his book, Soul Man Rocky Johnson. I got his book. I sadly haven't read it yet, but it's on the back burner. I know his son had wrote a foreword for him. And that was kind of my nice way of saying it can't be that bad between father and son, was my whole, when you really read in between the lines of what I was saying. But to hear Dwayne Johnson be very candid about his dad, you knew. You just knew from how he talked, his facial expressions, his body language. Not only was there respect, but there was tremendous love and support towards his father. And, you know, I would say go out of your way if you haven't watched it and check it out. And I should warn you, I know some of you guys are pretty tough, right? It's very hard to have your thick skin get penetrated and your heart get tapped into. But I'm warning you right now, if you're going to watch it, make sure you're watching it when you know you're totally alone. You don't have to worry about picking up the phone for a couple of minutes, depending on if you're at work or whatever. And it just really taps into your heart, and it really taps into your mind. And I know as I was watching it, I'm not going to lie. I have had a strange relationship with my parents for years now. You know, it's a different topic for another time, but there's a lot of animosity that I particularly have with my mother. And I have not spoken with her in probably, you know, I keep tabs, but I stopped keeping tabs a long time ago. I think the last time I had any tabs on what she was, you know, doing at that point, I remember my uncle had actually reached out because he had wanted to, you know, find out what was going on with all of the family members from both sides of the family and find out how everybody was doing. He was telling me how everybody is not in Chicago anymore, and he knew a big bulk was in California, but he wasn't sure what was going on, you know, because it kind of seemed like they all just kind of scattered and disappeared or whatever. And I remember saying to him, well, hang on, let me try to see if I can get you her phone number and figure out what she's been up to. And I basically was able to pass along that contact information. And there was some question he asked me and about her, and I said, honestly, I was like, I haven't talked to her, and at this point, I believe I haven't talked to her in almost 15 years. So, but watching that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson funeral service, it broke me a bit. I gotta tell you, it fucked with me in a way maybe you could consider it most positive, which was, you know, before it's too late, you know, before one of you guys leave this earth, right? You know, make sure you make things right. You know, it was definitely, and I was telling my girl about it, and I said, I'm not quite there just yet. I'm almost there. It's like, but I just need to be in the right, you know, when is the right time? When is the right place? I don't really know that. And that's not an excuse, but that's honestly how I feel at this point, because it's one thing if a parent can be very self-accounting and take accountability for, you know, yeah, was I a bad parent? Did I not raise you right? You know, were there a lot of aspects, you know, it's kind of one of those, you know, like I don't want to open that up too much, but it's kind of one of those type of deals. And until I see some form of self-accountability, I don't think that there can ever really be, but it did make me want to pick up the phone and just hope you're doing okay. At least say that much. So if you're kind of like me, you're in that, you know, in that same little boat. I'm telling you, when you watch that Rocky Johnson tribute, you just, wow, you know. And I remember Tams had saw it, and you know, she was telling me, you know, how it had touched her and everything. And the timing was actually kind of cool because I want to say shortly after she got done seeing that, she actually had picked up the phone and checked in with her dad, seeing how he was doing and everything. And they actually had ate lunch. And he was actually supposed to come over to the house to show me how to fix the ceiling fan because the wiring's all messed up right now. But he had such a big meal. They ate at Roy Rogers, I think it was. Yeah, Roy Rogers is still around, people. And he's like, let me come do it next weekend if you don't mind. It's like, yeah, no problem. So, yeah, but check that out. It was emotional stuff for sure, emotional stuff. And while we're talking about, you know, the Johnsons and everything, shout out to The Rock's kid, his daughter there. She has reported to the Performance Center. So it's only going to be a matter of time now before we see her in NXT. So I'm curious to see what she is going to be able to do. I am. And I'm telling you, it is very scary. When you look at the pictures of his daughter, looks just like The Rock. Just a female version. Looks just like The Rock, though. Them some big ass shoes to fill, man. Them some big ass shoes to fill. And, you know, I really hope that the powers that be in WWE, I really hope that everything that's going on with her right now, I hope that they are giving her the best tough love that's humanly possible. And it's not going to be a case where, because contrary to how some people may feel, but it pays to read Charlotte's book. Charlotte let it be known, hey, as far as me coming in there, you know, a lot of people had the impression that because I was Ric Flair's daughter, you know, that's everything just basically came to me. No, I had to earn. And she had, you know, very heart-to-heart conversations, mainly with Triple H, you know, a few other people, but mainly Triple H, about, okay, you know, you sure you want to go in this direction? You know, this is what's going to be happening. The fans are going to be looking at you like this, right? But it was not an easy path that some people feel it may have been. She earned every single little thing that had came to her. So I really hope that they are not going to be wearing kid gloves with Rocky's daughter, but that's going to be a fun journey to embark on and see what she's capable of doing. And it's kind of funny to be here in 2020, about to turn 40, and I can remember his kid when she was just so tiny, and now she is this, you know, she's this young adult basically. And it's crazy sometimes when you just stop and go, God damn, right? I was a kid, you know, watching this guy, and I saw when he was beginning his family, and it's like, it's crazy sometimes. It's really crazy. EC3 got a lot of people talking on social media. Went down over the weekend. You might have missed it, but he had shared a picture with Chris Jericho, and Chris Jericho had actually put out the post on Instagram, and he said something along the lines of, you know, this young man has a really big, bright, promising career ahead of him. You guys just wait and see. A lot of cool big things are going to be happening for Mr. EC3. So, and I see this. One of the first tweets I put out there, oh yeah, this is going to have all the dirt sheets running rampant. Just watch, right? And sure enough, everybody was running with it and everything. And it appears as though EC3 and WWE are getting ready to part ways. Now, see, I'm not going to come on here and I'm not going to do the whole, you know, this report. I like to actually do research. And one thing that I know about is copyright and trademarks. There's been a few I've had to file over the years for stuff. And I've actually helped people do copyright and trademark and all that. So WWE, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, they apparently have abandoned the EC3 trademark. And anybody can research this. You just got to know where to look, and you know, don't fall for those, you know, pay-to-view scams and shit, right? But I found it very interesting here, the trademark. Now, you can see this for yourself, and the mark drawing code is a code 4 standard character mark, serial number 884-83290. The filing date went down on June 21st of 2019. The owner was World Wrestling Entertainment Corporation, Delaware, 1241 East Main Street in Stamford, Connecticut. Attorney of record was Lauren A. Denise Medlin. Trademark, it was a service mark. It went dead, or in this case, abandoned. It was abandoned as of January 25th of 2020. And the coding for goods and services went as follows: entertainment services, namely wrestling exhibitions and performances by a professional wrestler and entertainer, rendered live and throughout broadcast media, including television and radio, and via the internet or commercial online service, providing wrestling news and information via a global computer network, providing information in the fields of sports and entertainment via an online community portal, providing a website in the field of sports entertainment information, fan club services, namely organizing sporting events in the field of wrestling for wrestling fan club members, organizing social entertainment events for entertainment purposes for wrestling fan club members. I know it's almost done though. Providing online newsletters in the fields of sports entertainment, online journals, namely blogs in the field of sports entertainment. And again, this was abandoned on January 25th of 2020. And I actually had checked the TSDR status on this, and that's where it's really fascinating when you actually expand on the history of that more. So the status of it's abandoned because the applicant, being WWE, failed to respond or filed a late response to an office action. And so as of February 4th, 2020, it is still abandoned. So, I had immediately told EC3, and you can see the history of it too. You can see the history of it. So it goes back to June 25th when the application was first entered, right? And so now think about that, June 21st of 2019, right? And so some of you are probably going, well, Lee, when exactly did EC3 first show up in the WWE? Well, I'm glad you had asked that question, because he first showed up in the WWE, or at least this go round. That's the real question you should be saying. This next go round, as far as him in the WWE, you got to rewind that back to... it feels like 2018. I'm just looking here. Bear with me a second. It feels like 2018, because I'm looking at my notes here. It feels like 2018. January 27, 2018 is when he returned. Officially. That's when he had returned. So the fact that you got this trademark filed then, right, I could kind of, seems kind of weird. I personally think it seems kind of weird. But no, it's a fascinating read. You can see all of what was going on there during the history up to the trademark time when WWE should have gone in and, okay, time to refile. This really comes off like they're basically getting ready to do everything that they need to do to part ways with him. And I honestly just hope that this doesn't end up being an ugly situation like with Ryback. And we all know how ugly that has gotten, to the point Ryback has said, look, WWE, just fucking forget about me. Erase me from your history. I'm not really interested in paying $200K plus in legal fees just to try to win this damn. I mean, he's changed his freaking name, for Christ's sake, right? And he's trying to do everything in his power to let it be no secret. WWE, I don't want to have anything else to do with you. I'm not interested in coming back. Just let me have the name. Because they actually had refiled. They've got the trademark and all that again. So, how petty is WWE going to get when it comes to EC3? Who knows? But assuming that they don't try to give EC3 any red tape whatsoever, looks as though he's possibly going to be AEW bound. And that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. It wouldn't. At least he would have more control of his character. And I would like to believe that as far as input goes on his feuds and everything, right? Not to get too hardcore on the AEW talk, but, I'll talk a little bit more about that on Wednesday for sure. A shout out to XFL, by the way. Yes, I did watch XFL opening weekend. I saw all 4 games that came on, and I loved every single minute of it. Shout out to the DC Defenders as they had defeated the Seattle Dragons. That was a great game. And for me, it would be a little bit too premature for me to jump out there and say, well, hey, what player stood out to you that I at least want to see 2 to 3 weeks of work since I can basically watch all of these teams and go from there. But from DC Defenders, I do love the quarterback. He's making some really good, solid first impressions on me. And Cardell Jones, he's got a pretty good arm. I'm loving him, and I'm learning a lot about him that I'm enjoying. And I watched all the games though. I watched all the games, and what I found most interesting, and I'm really going to be talking about the XFL more with Tammy on, I think we're going to be doing wrestling with the topics when we do get ready to talk about it. That's actually going to be a free-for-all, despite it being a Patreon episode. We're going to make that part of essentially, not necessarily February sweeps, but kind of like February preview, right? So those of you that maybe were considering signing up for Patreon and you want to kind of get a little bit of a taste of what you can expect. So we're going to put that out there for free because she actually had watched majority of the games with me as well. And the one thing that I noticed that I laughed my ass off about was the people that were taking massive shits on the XFL. It was hilarious. You had people that, oh, it's going to fail. It's going to fail just like it did last time. And then when you were looking up these people's profiles, a lot of these people weren't even born when the XFL was around the first wave. Now even you guys got to admit that that's funny, that there were legit people that wasn't even born when the XFL was around the first go round saying, oh, it's going to fail. Like, it's like, okay. And okay. So other than going on Wikipedia and Dailymotion and YouTube, like, essentially, what do you really know about the XFL? And there was one listener. Oh my God. This was really hilarious. This was really hilarious. There was one listener, so-called listener, I should say, that tried to play the victim card with me. Yeah, let me explain that. So I'm watching the Sunday game. I want to say I was watching, oh God, I think it was the Renegades taking on the Battlehawks. If it wasn't that one, then for sure it was the Guardians taking on the Vipers. And I remember there was some play that had went down. The kid's 23. That much I remember. If I go on my Twitter timeline, I could probably pull up his name. Almost kind of sounded like a Ricky Williams type of name. It almost kind of sounded like that. But I remember he threw this punch at a player, closed fist and all. And you could see this player's head just jerk back. And you're going, dude, what the fuck are you thinking? This is the first game of the XFL. And of course, the kid got ejected. And you're like, oh, kid, what the hell were you thinking, man? Like, okay, I answered my own question. You weren't thinking. Because seriously, why the hell would you do something like that? And my whole thing was, this kid's got a lot of maturing to do. Now, I let it be no secret that, and all you got to do is ask, when I normally watch any sporting game, I usually, on purpose, I try to be 15 to 30 minutes behind so that I can just fast forward through the commercials and I can get through what I need to get through. If something catches my, I'll watch everything in its entirety, but when they take the commercial breaks, I like to just fast forward through that. And then eventually I'll get caught up in real time with everybody else. And then my reactions are essentially in real time as it's happening. So for me, I'm watching this game with the missus and I was already about 15, 20 minutes behind. I see this spot. I'm going, what the fuck? I rewind it again. And we just sat back in amazement that this kid had did that. And there was this one guy, he's like, you're still watching that shit. And I said to him, I said, well, I'm 15 to 20 minutes behind. So that's like, I don't understand. What's the big deal? And his whole thing was, why are you watching that? It fucking sucks. It's going to fail. Right. And I remember I had responded to him. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at his Twitter timeline as we speak, because I had basically saved it all on the phone here. And hopefully, hang on here. And that also sets up the polling results too because I did ask you guys, what did you think about the XFL and everything? You know, are you really still watching this shit, right? And I said, do you have other things to do besides bitching about what others enjoy that you obviously do not? Run along now. And he comes right back. I tell you, nobody wants to partake in friendly debates anymore. And I said, no, I just don't care to deal with stupid comments that come off as if one is bashing someone for what they like instead of truly having a friendly debate by saying, why do you like XYZ? I don't like it because XYZ. And have a meeting of the minds. And from there, I said to him, enjoy your weekend. So, you know, he tried to come right back with this whole, oh, you know, I was just messing with you, you know, like what you like, have fun. You know, it's so sad that people can't loosen up when it comes to social media. Everybody's so uptight, blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. Okay, so now, motherfucker, you're trying to play the victim card now that you essentially got called out on your bullshit. See, here's something where he failed to not really comprehend this, right? All on his Twitter timeline. Every single time somebody was being very complimentary of the XFL or whatever, all he was on was a bash fest. That's all it was. You know, and it's... okay, if you don't care about the XFL, then why are you hunting down all of these people that are having something to say positive about the XFL? What's it to you? Like, if it's really bothering you like that, if you really do not care for the XFL, there's other stuff that you particularly can go do. Go outside, play with your dog, play with your dick, play with a Frisbee. I don't fucking care. Why are you tracking down every single body on social media that has something positive to say about the XFL, and you're looking at it as an opportunity to shit on it, also recycling your same stupid little gif, right? So, like, I smelled it a mile away, and it was just, no. And that's what was really surprising to me, was the amount of people like him that were taking massive shits on the XFL, didn't even watch any of the games. And I got to tell you, I was quite impressed with the games that I saw over the weekend. I was quite impressed. You know, I get that some people want to be so quick to, oh, these people that are playing, they're just fucking rejects. You know, they're fucking has-beens. They're washed up. And if your mind is that so narrow-minded, you really don't understand what the XFL is about. The XFL... I look at, and I'm sure many of the players that are playing the XFL would agree with me in this standpoint, which is the XFL for some of these players, this is their second opportunity to ultimately try to impress the NFL so that they can get back in there. You've got some guys like Cardell Jones. Cardell Jones is a good example. His story is very fascinating. This young man, he's only 27. He's going to be 28 this September, okay? He started off with the Buffalo Bills. He started 11 games in his college career and was drafted in the 4th round in the 2016 NFL draft with the 139th overall pick by the Buffalo Bills. He signed his contract. It was a rookie contract. He was inactive for the first 15 games of the season as a third-string quarterback behind backup E.J. Manuel and the starter Tyrod Taylor. And then with Taylor being inactive for the final game of the season against the New York Jets, Jones was then promoted to second string. He entered the game to begin the 4th quarter after Manuel was benched. And Jones completed 6 out of 11 passes for 96 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. From there, he signed to the Los Angeles Chargers in exchange for a conditional draft pick. Then from there, 2018, Jones was waived by the Chargers and was signed to the practice squad the next day. He was signed to a reserve future contract with the Chargers on January 14th of 2019. Then a couple of months later, he was released by the Chargers. Seattle Seahawks, they picked him up. They signed him to the practice squad, but then like not even 2 weeks later, the Seattle Seahawks, they released him. So this is a young man that, you know, honestly has not really had a true opportunity to shine in the NFL. And here he is in a position where the XFL is giving him an opportunity to, hey, look, this is what I can actually do. You've got other players who weight was maybe a significant problem for them. Yeah, you got the talents, no doubt about that, but your weight, you need to get your weight under control. If you can get your weight under control, man, and for some players, weight being the issue. For other players, maybe it's height, right? For some players, maybe they had got in trouble one too many times and they burnt some bridges, and as a result of burning those bridges, it's led them down to the XFL, and they're hoping that, okay, look, I really have changed, and if the way I need to go about proving to people I have changed, well, I'll prove it by making my actions speak louder than my words here in the XFL. So for a lot of these people that's playing in the XFL, it is about redemption. It's not as so narrow-minded as some people are making it out to be. Now, I gotta tell you guys, some of the rules, I was really kind of, okay, I'm hearing this, and I remember hearing this on Don Tony, and shout out to Don Tony, but it was really the first time I truly sat down and, okay, what can I expect? And some of the rules I was hearing, I'm going, yeah, I'm not really sure about that. And it was, okay, well, I tell you what, let me see it in action. Maybe if I see it in action, I'll understand this a little bit more. And not for nothing, but those of you that were not around during the first wave of the XFL, there was a lot of things that the XFL first go round, very revolutionary, in that the NFL adopted. And there's a lot of cool things that is definitely going to be adopted in the NFL in the next coming years. I think we may see some of the impacts happen when the next CBA goes down, which will be at the conclusion of the 2020 going into the 2021 season of the NFL is when the collector's bargaining agreement is going to be up for renewal and everything. But the kickoff for the XFL, that's the one that I find the most fascinating, right? Okay, so the spot of the kickoff, it's set at the kicking team's 30-yard line. Now, the NFL and the college standard is the 35-yard line. However, members of the kicking team, excluding the kicker, line up at the receiving team's 35-yard line, and the blockers on the receiving team must line up at their 30-yard line. Only the kicker and returners can move until the ball is either caught or 3 seconds after it hits the ground. Now, when I see this happening in real time, at first I'm going, this is stupid. But then I watch it a couple of more times and I go, this is fucking brilliant. This is brilliant because you're eliminating the concussions, the hard impacts, everything that we know about CTE and everything. This is actually pretty damn smart, because as an NFL fan, nothing has been more infuriating for me over the years than, oh man, I can't wait to see this guy play. I'm so excited. He's part of the kick return team, punt return team, and he gets injured. Well, there goes that guy. He's out for the entire season now. Like, of all the ways to go out, that's the way to go out. So I thought that was brilliant how they had set that whole thing up. And I would not be surprised if that was actually something that the NFL eventually decides, okay, yeah, we definitely want to try to implement that in the XFL. Another thing that I thought was really, really cool here, and bear with me a second here. Let me see if I can actually pull that up here. I believe I still got it. Let me see here. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Bear with me, guys. And if I can pull it off. Okay, so on top of the kickoff rules, the 3-point conversions. The 3-point convert, I think that is badass. Okay, so the way this is set up, right? Once you score your touchdown, you think you're going to be able to do a field goal kick? No. Ain't no field. No, that's not how they're doing it. And the way that they got the lines basically set up, right? You have to either run or throw the ball. And you either are going to get your 1 point or depending on how far along the line you are, okay, well, if you're at this first line, okay, that'll get you a point. Or do you maybe want to go back, to the second line or whatever? You go to the second line, okay, there you go, you get 2 points. Well, how about this third line right here, basically? You come to this third line right here, you can get yourself 3 points or whatever. And I mean, that shit pretty much adds up. So what could be looking like maybe a one-sided game or whatever, you could essentially make a comeback in no time if you do it just right. I find it fascinating. I find it really fascinating the way that they got it set up. So again, to recap on that, the extra kick point that was replaced with a scrimmage play, and the 2-yard attempt scores a single point, a 5-yard attempt scores 2 points, and a 10-yard attempt scores you 3 points, right? So that's pretty badass how they got that all set up. And then the referees have no control over instant replay. All plays are reviewed by the people in the booth. And so they're looking at the plays, and if there's something that they need to relay to the referees, the game will be delayed until they're able to go in there and do what they need to do and relay to the referees, okay, this is what we're seeing, and we saw it many times on display. So as a result of all of that, the coaches, they have no challenges because every single play, and that makes a lot of sense in the world, because every single play is reviewed by the guys upstairs. And what's really so fucking badass about this, these guys are operating Xbox controllers to go over the plays and all. I think I'm talking about the guys in the review booth that's checking out all of the plays. They are actually using an Xbox controller, and they're going over everything that, went down. Okay, yeah. And they got touchscreen too, but they're using the Xbox controller. I think that is so badass on so many levels. So there is a lot of innovation that I'm seeing from the XFL, and I'm very confident that it will be implemented in the NFL. So much like how they did things the last go round, here they are once again going at it and everything. So on top of the 3 points that I had mentioned, the kickoff rules, and then the 25-second play clock, I like how they basically tweaked that. And then on top of that, they got a referee, right? This referee's job is to only spot the ball, because such precious time gets taken off the clock and all that. And what's really cool about it is once the play is dead, there's no counter. The counter does not start again and all that until that one ref goes out, puts the ball where it needs to be, and then he runs off the field, and then essentially that's when the clock will begin and everything. Running the game clock as well, the running game clock, all of that. I think all of those things, it's what's making the XFL, okay, this is good. They're playing smarter. They're playing it safer for the players and everything. It's much smoother. I like it on so many fronts. Somebody who I respect a great deal, Troy Aikman. They interviewed him on, I want to say it was the last game of the evening. And Pat McAfee, by the way, for the Sunday ESPN coverage, Pat McAfee did a phenomenal job. He honestly had made the ESPN coverage worthwhile. And to kind of echo what I had said on Twitter over the weekend, in a nutshell, I basically said, okay, ABC, when you look at their team, and I wish I knew the name of the commentators, that's my fault. I will make sure I take even better notes. And next time I talk about the XFL, I'll be more on point. But ABC's XFL coverage, if you want to know what plays are being called, you want to have an understanding what is the scheme of it and everything, they do a really good job in breaking all of that down for you from an offensive or a defensive standpoint. They give you great insight in all of that. I like that. And speaking of that insight, the interviews, I love the whole interview process and getting coaches and players' reactions when something good or bad happens. I love all of that. I thought ABC was a bit too spammy with how they were approaching it. I felt that they needed to have a more reserved approach, which essentially Pat McAfee, Fox, they had a more laid back approach with the people that they had in place to do the interviews and all that. But getting to hear what the defensive coordinators were calling in the boxes and all that, I thought that was great insight. And what's really cool is if a headset goes down, from, the coaching or coaching side, defense or offensive headset goes down, that other side has to match. Okay, well, they're now down 4 headsets. Okay, well, we got to deactivate one of ours. So they really try to make it be as fair as humanly possible. So pretty badass. But like I said, ABC, they cover the explanation of the X's and O's, the plays that's being covered. Fox, they just sit back with Kurt Menefee and Joe Klatt. They just kick back and they just let the game speak for itself. They let it breathe and they jump in where they need to. That's great. ESPN's coverage, it is all about Pat McAfee. That is essentially what it's all about. And charismatic, very energetic. And it was nice hearing him talk to Troy Aikman, because if there's anybody that football fans will listen to, it's Troy Aikman. He is the heartbeat of everything that's going on. If there's something that's just rubbing him the wrong way, he has his finger on the pulse on what a lot of fans are thinking. So to hear him even, give his blessings of the XFL, mentioning, all of the things that he thinks is going right about it so far and everything, it was nice to hear him even double down and, they're doing good. You go on the XFL website, merchandise sold out. Now, to be devil's advocate, some of that merchandise was probably sold because they probably had limited quantities. Not for nothing. They probably got a big ass warehouse ready to go, but they wanted to get that first little bit, right? Just to see how it does and everything. And okay, oh, hey, that sold out. Okay, well, that's good. The little bit that we did put up there out front, it sold out. Okay, that's good. And then you go to the ratings numbers. The ratings numbers, they did phenomenal with the ratings numbers here. Just looking at it. And the player I was thinking about, by the way, that threw the punch, the player, by the way, that I was thinking of that had threw the punch, Ricky Walker. And that was during the New York Guardians taking on the Tampa Bay Vipers, right? It was during that game that punch had went down. Crazy shit that had went down. Okay, but no, their ratings numbers, they did phenomenal with their ratings numbers. They did like let me see if I can pull that up real quick, because I actually took some screenshots. And by the way, Shane McMahon was actually at the DC Defenders game over at the Audi Stadium in Southeast Washington over the weekend. I thought that was badass. And as I always talk about on this show from time to time, the McMahon family has extreme close ties to DC. After all, it goes as far back as to the Capital Championship Wrestling days. I've talked about this on the show repeatedly, but for you newer listeners, the McMahon family, as far as pro wrestling, like everything started in DC, right? And so the McMahon family, DC, they are just, they're like this. The relationship has been that close for decades, right down to the point Shane McMahon was actually born in Gaithersburg, Maryland. And Tammy was so shocked when I told her that, and she's like, "Get the fuck out of here!" Really? I said, "Yeah." Well, which hospital? It's got to be Shady Grove Hospital, right? I said, I'm not really sure about that. Don't quote me on that. But it's like, but he was born in Gaithersburg, Maryland. And she's like, well, how old is he? And I told her his age, and she was like, well, if he was born, in that year, the only hospital I know of at the time, I was like, well, you might be right. He's like, oh, wow, get out of here. He's from Gaithersburg. Like, yeah, how about that? And it was nice seeing him. It looks like somebody from WUSA 9 actually had spoke with him, and he basically had said, yeah, every time I have an opportunity to come out here, because this is home for me. I was born out here and everything. Every time I have an opportunity to come out here, it's awesome. And to be able to come out here and, check out the very first game for DC Defenders, cool stuff. So I like that. It was good stuff there. But no, the ratings for the games, they did phenomenal. I'm looking in my notes here, and I actually have it here. Bear with me a second here. Fox, they hyped up the success after week 1. They averaged a 2.3 rating. Another game had previously got 3.3 million viewers for ABC. So I mean, that's awesome. And they're already building these great partnerships with, other people. I know one team has hooked up with Kroger, and I'll have everything more in a nice, pretty little ribbon when me and Tammy talk about the XFL more on Wrestling with the Topics. But I can't stress it enough. I've spoken to so many people, right down to the point I even polled people on social media asking them, what did you think about the XFL? And when I had polled people about the XFL, the options were rather simple. The first poll here, see if I can pull this up for you guys real quick. Bear with me a second here. Here it is. I gave 4 options. I said, solid, made a fan out of me, watched, not impressed, seems okay, won't last long, XFL, I'm dodging that. At basically 50 votes, 4% said XFL, dodging that. 2% watched, not impressed. 7% said, seems okay, won't last long. And an overwhelming 87% made a fan out of me. And I gotta tell, I saw stupid comments from people that were going, oh, I'm not watching XFL because McMahon's ties to Trump. And yeah, I tweeted out there, I said, if you're those type of people that's gonna talk about how you're not gonna watch the XFL because of the ties the family has to the current president of the United States, why don't you stop talking to your family and friends that don't share in your same political beliefs? That sounds pretty stupid, does it not? Like, seriously, if you're not gonna watch, just watch because you don't care for it. That's a better scapegoat to use rather than try to make every single little thing, be political and all that. Like, seriously. But it was refreshing to see so many people, especially those that were interacting with me while some of the games were on. Dude, I remember when the last XFL came around, that was so disappointing. They really did things right this go round. Ticket prices at the gates, I mean, they did phenomenally well. I remember there was one report that was put out there. The numbers were so freaking good that it exceeded, I think, week 1 of either maybe NFL preseason or maybe it was regular preseason. If you guys can bear with me one more time, I can actually pull up the report that I had saw, because the guy who I was looking at, it was a reporter. Yeah, listen to this. Secondary market get-in prices before fees for the first week of XFL games. Saturday, Dragons taking on Defenders, $100. Wildcats at Roughnecks, $50. Sunday, the Vipers taking on the Guardians, $35. The Battlehawks taking on the Renegades, that ran about $60. And the XFL, the ticket prices opening weekend was, so expensive that lucrative, but expensive at the same time, that the Defenders game was more expensive than some of the Redskins games, believe it or not. And 2 operators have paid to be authorized betting partners for the XFL and have access to their first party data. That's DraftKings and Fox Bet. And not for nothing, but XFL had just put out a mobile app as well, so that you guys can play along and everything. Progressive Insurance, Bud Light, Seltzer, Tops, G3 Apparel, Dick's Sporting Goods, Gatorade. These are the official XFL sponsors. And as far as their ticket sales went, as far as the revenue overall, it surpassed the ticket sales revenue for the entire season. Get this, the entire season of the AAF. So, I mean, it's very impressive across all boards. So I can't stress it enough. If you were maybe on the fence and maybe you were, waiting for guys like me and a couple of my other colleagues to give candid thoughts about the XFL, there you go. I would say give it a chance. At least watch the weekend. You get 2 games, and the time that it comes on, it's awesome. Saturday and Sunday, basically you get a 2:00 and a 5:00 game, right? And they don't do no silly ass halftime musical spot or anything like that. The halftime breaks are not even that long at all. The halftime breaks are essentially, it feels like maybe it's about 5 minutes at most. and then you're back to the action. So, check it out. And then worst case scenario, if you end up not feeling it, at least you can say, hey, I saw it this go round. And I guarantee you'll say, hey, the improvements that they made from the last go round, okay, yeah, I see it. The main consensus that I've seen so far has been, it's great. Hope it lasts a couple of years. And I don't blame people that kind of feel like that, because you can't help but wonder, how long is that buzz going to continue? Is it going to continue to thrive, or is it going to fizzle out, right? Only time will tell. I think after the first 5 weeks are in the books, we'll have a better gauge on what's going on with the numbers and everything. I did see some Colin Kaepernick news, because I was one of the main ones saying, give Colin Kaepernick a blank check and let's see if we can get him in the XFL. And the XFL commissioner, Oliver Luck, he did shed light on why we're not seeing Colin Kaepernick in the XFL. I'll talk a little bit more about that. If not Wednesday, I'll definitely talk about it when me and Tammy get ready to drop wrestling with the topics for you guys this week. But yeah, go out of your way, check it out. And like I say, give me about 2, maybe almost 3 weeks, and I can definitely let you guys know, what players are really jumping out at me. But as far as first impressions go, I'm really taken by Cardell Jones. I think the young man is pretty good. I sincerely mean that. Let's see. So the only other thing we got to get into tonight that I wanted to touch upon was the quarterly reports for WWE. But look, if I get into that right now, that's definitely going to take us past the 2-hour mark. And like I told you guys, I was feeling pretty good. But I don't want to go any longer. So I'm going to say we'll stick a fork in it. We'll call it DONE done. So essentially we've done about 101 minutes as opposed to just doing about 80 minutes. I think you guys will be good for now. So Wednesday show, we'll talk a lot more. It can be a 2-hour show for all I care. I'm okay with that. But shout out to our Patreon members, patreon.com/RCWR show. Check out bonus audio, video content you won't be able to find anywhere else. Shout out to Patreon members Justin Ripstock. Shout out to John Krauser, Sean Kenter, Freddie R. Freddie, Michael Wolf, John Davis. Also shout out to Anthony Missionary Thomas of Wrestling Soup. Nice to hear my man is finally getting nice and situated there. And yeah, patreon.com/RCWR show for just $5 a month. You can check out bonus audio, video content you won't be able to find anywhere else. So programming notes for this week, Wednesday, February 12th, we got an all new RCWR show that's going to drop. We'll come on after NXT and AEW wraps up, right? We'll dive a lot more. Got a lot to say about Impact Wrestling, got a lot to say about MLW, ROH. We're going to be NWA. I know we haven't talked about NWA in a couple of weeks. Got a lot to say about all of those promotions. So tune in. That's going to be a solid show. We'll also follow up on that whole Colin Kaepernick, XFL, what Oliver Luck had to say and everything, the XFL commissioner. So tune in for that. That's going to be pretty solid. And in the meantime, Patreon members, I'll be sitting down with Tammy later today, and we will be recording some back-to-back episodes of 30 with Lee. And before we get ready to roll out, can I just give some quick shout-outs here, particular shout-outs here. Rest in peace to Kirk Douglas, who passed away, looks like of natural causes, at the age of 103. A nice, long, good run. Phenomenal actor. A phenomenal actor. One of the 30 with Lees that we're going to be talking about that will be a free-for-all is going to be reflecting on the life and career of Kirk Douglas. And I also want to give, I didn't know this until literally yesterday, as Tams pointed it out to me, but rest in peace, Kevin Conway. And I don't want people thinking, not the guy that voiced Batman, no. This is a veteran, established actor. He usually had played a bad guy. He's right up there with Brian Denning. And he's a phenomenal actor, whether it was Broadway, TV, movies. He was mainly a Broadway TV guy. Like, what TV show has he not done? I mean, Star Trek, all the Law and Orders, Homicide, Life on the Street. The guy just has, when you see his face, you go, oh, that guy, right? He has a very distinct look. But yeah, he had passed away last week, and I sadly did not know about it until Sunday. And I was pretty bummed out because Tammy was like, did you hear about this? I'm like, hear about what? You know Kevin Conway? I'm like, the name sounds familiar, but I got to see the face because it's been a while. And as soon as she showed me the face, I just started naming shit. She's like, yeah, it looks like he passed. I was like, I think he was only 73. And special shout out to the beautiful, the lovely Paula Kelly. Rest in peace, Paula Kelly. I posted this on Twitter as soon as the news had went down. That's another one. You look at her face, and if you are like me and a big fan of blaxploitation films and everything, you definitely will recall some of her work, whether it was TV, Broadway, or film. She always brought memorable performances because she oozed charisma. Great range you could see in her acting too. I remember there was one particular episode of Kojak where she had played a undercover agent, and her cover, she was a call girl. And I mean, she was getting beat up like a mofo from the dude that she was with. And once Kojak had found out she was undercover and everything, Kojak's like, you know, won't you let us pull you out? And she's like, nah, baby. You know, we've been working this dude. We've been pulling his strings now for a couple of years, and we're that close to being able to take him down. If you go in now, you pull me out, you know, my cover is essentially going to be blown, and he's got connections. It's too risque. And it was interesting how eventually they kind of went about a compromise to take the guy down and everything. Again, she was on the episode of Kojak. Look it up. Good shit there. I won't spoil how that ended. Good times. She was involved in Night Court. Of course, one of my all-time favorite performances that she did. She was in Uptown Saturday Night. If you remember the scene, it's where Sidney Poitier and Bill Cosby, they first enter the house and they go check out the red door that the hostess was saying, if you want some real action, check out the red door. And so they go to the red door, and, you know, and they see all the gambling action that's going on. And you got that tough looking black dude that's basically saying, you here to just be admiring, or you here to actually play? And, you know, they put the money together, and they come across Kelly's character, and she is just rolling the dice, and she's on a roll, and she just keeps winning money and money. You got Bill Cosby, yeah, put your money down there, let's go, you're gonna win, she's hot, you know. And she was phenomenal in that. And then later on, y'all know, come on, how many of you guys have not seen Uptown Saturday Night? If you have not seen Uptown Saturday Night, that is one of the all-time greatest blaxploitation films that's out there. You owe it to yourselves to see that. But after they, you know, get robbed at the joint, you know, Cosby and Poitier, they realize that apparently Poitier had a winning lottery ticket, and I think it was like 10 grand, 20 grand or something like that. And so they go try to talk to this congressman, some politician guy, to get help. And they tell him what had went down. Oh, my brothers, no problem. Oh, yes, my brothers, what a travesty. Well, one phone call to my good friend, the police chief, and we'll get right to the bottom of this. And as he's dialing, he's like, now, my good brothers, my black proud brothers, where did you say you lost this wallet again with most precious contents? And I forgot the name of the house. But when you mention the house, like, everybody knows, oh, that's where the gambling is. And as soon as they mention the house, he basically hangs up the phone. And he has this perplexed look on his face like, yeah, I'm not really interested in going down that path, y'all. Nah. And Paula Kelly walks in there, and it turns out she's the wife of this politician. And she's just, oh, I remember you guys. Y'all was at the house. Oh, that's so jacked up. That we got robbed. I was on such a roll too, man. And yeah, just she was. Every time I saw her, she was always very flamboyant, very charismatic. Always gave you Such a memorable performance, and always had a memorable line where whatever she had touched and everything. Very, very underrated actress. Definitely will be missed. You know, one thing that I was quite taken back by when I had put out the tweet initially, I was very taken back by the amount of people that reacted to her passing, whether it was leaving a comment or just the fact that they were familiar with this person's work, and you know, they either liked or retweeted. You know, it's nice to see that, you know, even here we are in 2020. Yeah, we definitely remember her and everything. So rest in peace to those people. You know, it seems, as I had said earlier, it seems that early 2020, everybody is jumping on that Bon Voyage boat pretty early, it looks like. So, and we're only 2 months into 2020. So, but yeah, that is going to do it. You know, hey, look, when it's time, it's time, right? You know, natural causes and all that other, you know, it's time, it's time. But yeah, definitely appreciate you guys that had checked out tonight's show. We'll definitely do this again for you guys in just a handful of hours. Those of you that's going to be waiting for the audio version of this, give me about 30 minutes. I'll have this ready to go for you guys. And yeah, that is going to do it. Until next go round, wishing all y'all to be safe and most importantly, be kind to one another. I will catch you guys much later. Y'all do take care.